On the blackboard here, I wanted to save you guys a little bit of the bore of measuring and drilling the spindle bracket for the hot rod wagon. Now, this bracket here is what the bolt is going to go through, and the spindle will sit inside here. And like I said, I'll show you what we're going to do up here with a spring and some suspension and that sort of thing. But instead of boring you with how to measure and bend and drill and make sure this is all centered on this, I went ahead and just drew it up on a whiteboard because it's really hard to see when you're scribing it on the metal and trying to capture it on video. It just doesn't quite work. So I'll do a quick run through here of how I did it. Now, the piece of stock that I used lengthwise, I used is about 6 inches long from end to end here. I wanted 4-inch gap in the center between the two marks. Here is what I wanted, a 4-inch. Now remember from previous videos, the spindle is only 2 inches, so I wanted the travel for the spring to be inside there, so I needed roughly 4 inches between the two of these. So I went ahead and did it to 6 inches long for a 4-inch here. When I bend it, that leaves 1 inch on both sides, which is where you will scribe a line. When you measure it, you measure 1 inch from both sides there. Now what that'll end up doing is when you bend this level over and you bend this level over, if you do it right, you should have 4 inches between these two here. Now, as far as marking the center for the spindle, so you get the hole correct, okay, you need to mark a center line on this 6-inch piece. Now, the width of this bar stock, if you laid it flat like this, like that, the width is 1.25 inch, okay? So if you scribe a center line down it, you're gonna get 0.6125 of an inch center line on it, okay? So if you go ahead and you scribe your center line there and you scribe your 1-inch lines on both sides, you're gonna be able to go ahead and mark, cut this difference, the 1-inch difference on both ends, cut the 1-inch difference in half. It's gonna give you half an inch or 0.500 of an inch. And then you can go ahead and mark your line there. That is where you're going to want to center punch. Go ahead and center punch there, and you're going to center punch right here. What that's going to do is that's where your drill mark's going to go, or your drill bit, I should say, is going to go when you step drill it for that M12 bolt. We're going to step drill and total drill it to half an inch. It's going to give a little bit of wiggle room for that M12, which is going to be fine. The outside diameter of the pipe that we were using is 842 of an inch, 0.842 inch OD of the pipe out here. I don't want to say 842 thousandths, it sounds funny, so we'll just say 0.842 inch OD. Now, that's going to leave you gap. On this very end here is going to be a little bit, and the very end here is going to be a little bit. Because remember, this is 1 inch, so 1.00. This is 842. So you're going to leave a little bit of a gap here and a little bit of a gap here, which is fine because when you bend this section over, when you bend it over here, you're going to notice you're going to need a gap here, and you're going to get the gap here, which is that excess, of what you're going to get. Okay, so I figured I would just draw this up here. It was a little bit easier than trying to follow on camera, scribe lines and mark lines and drill points and that sort of thing. So these are the measurements that I did on the flat stock. I went ahead, center punched it, then I step drilled it. I went 1/8 inch, 3/16, quarter, 3/8, and ½ inch. I do that because it's less stress on the drill bits. I guess you could probably skip a few of these and, you know, do 1/8 and a quarter, then half, and really hog it out. But it's just easier for me to go ahead and do them in gradual steps. It makes the hole much nicer. Then I went ahead and it says bend on mark 1-inch line, which is this 1-inch line here. You want to scribe this line right here for 1 inch because you don't want to bend that over. So once you have it drilled to the ½ inch, you go ahead and mark that up in a vise. You'll bend it over at the 1-inch line, and then you're going to want to check and make sure that it's square or level. When you bend it over, if you put a level on it, you'll make sure that it's level with the bubble. Then once you get both sides bent, you can actually put them in a square, and you can check them on a square and make sure that they are perfectly square. So these are the measurements. These are my steps that I went ahead and did, and I'll go ahead and do a couple of quick clips of just me step drilling it, bending the corner on it here, and then checking on the square and making sure it's all level, and you'll come up with a nice spindle bracket like this. So on to step one. So you can see we went ahead and got those holes step drilled up to 1/2 inch. Use the 1/2 inch bit there, and what we're going to do now is go ahead and bend the plate over on our 1 inch scribe lines that we marked in there when we were doing our measurements on them. Now what I'm going to do that, I'm going to put it up in this vise, and I'm going to clamp the vise down on it. But what I'm going to do to make sure that I get a decent bend here, because I'm not using a brake, I'm just using my hands. This vise here has very curved edges, so if I try to do it on one of these, you're going to get this weird long bend out of it, and I kind of want a sharper bend. So what I'm going to do is take another piece of just flat bar stock that came off the same strip as this, and I'm just going to set it down on the scribe line there, and then I'm going to put it up inside the vise like this, like so, and then I'll clamp it down. That way it's actually bending along the piece of flat stock that's in front of it. It's not actually bending against the vise part here. So I'll go ahead and get this, our piece that we're using that has the holes in it, I'll get it viced up with our flat stock here, inside of here, and we'll go ahead and get it bent over. Now, like I said, I'm not using a brake. It'd be a heck of a lot nicer if I was, but I'm not. So we're gonna use our hands instead. A little bit of brute force never hurt anybody. You want to make sure that you definitely get the line, the scribe line that you used, lined up. I like to have my flat bar stock that I'm using slightly above the, let me see if I can show you guys here, just slightly above, and this light is just garbage, huh? That's alright, let's try it again. There you go, you can kind of see it. So my flat stock that I'm using here, that I'm going to use to bend this over, slightly above my vise plate here. That way it's actually bending against the plate, and it's not bending against the vise here. If I grab a flashlight, we can maybe try to get, although it's kind of bright for you guys, I'm going to set you guys down. I'm going to line up my scribe line on that plate there, and then we're going to bend this bar, this plate, by hand over both here and up here on this scribe line, which you can probably see slightly, not really. Oh well. We're going to get them both bent over, and we're going to make the horseshoe bracket for it there. Back on the bench here, we're going to assemble the front end suspension that I was talking about in some of the earlier videos. Now you can see we got a lot of our parts laid out here, including the parts that we just made. So those are your brackets with the holes drilled, bent. You can see that we made sure that they are leveled. I did true them up with a square, and they are square. You also notice that I did bevel the edges there. It just makes the fit and finish a little bit nicer than just having a right angle from regular. It just cleans it up nicely. Now, a couple of parts that we have here. We've got our brackets. We have our spindles that we made in the other videos with the bushings on the inside of them. Ordered a couple of these springs. These springs came 2 in a pack. They're these springs here, C750, 3/4 by 2 by 0.080 diameter of the spring. They're good to about 28 pounds or so, give or take. They got a little bit of squeeze in them. Nothing too crazy. They're not stiff, they're not soft, nothing of that nature. We're also going to be using a couple of these washers. They're nylon style washers. They're 3/4 OD, 1/2 inch ID, and they're about 1/8 of an inch thick here. So how we're going to do this, we're going to take our spindle that we have here and our bolt. I'm going to put the bolt through itself here. We're going to do our spring over the bolt. We're going to use one of our nylon washers here. Nylon washer next. Spindle over that. Kind of compress it in there. Slide it in place like that. Second nylon washer is going to go on the bottom down here between the spindle and the bottom of the bracket. You can see everything's all lined up there. So like I said, we've got spring, nylon washer, spindle with bushings on the inside, nylon washer, bottom of the bracket there. We'll go ahead and slide all this together here, line it all up so you can get it through the hole at the bottom, which I think is probably the hardest part of all of it, just because of the tension on the spring. But you give it a little bit of finagle, a little bit of push, and we can get it to go. And I'll just slide right through. Once it's all lined up, it'll go. Looks like that little washer there is giving me a little bit of a hard time. Oh, there we go. And get it lined up here. There we go. So it's all through there. So there we go. Bolt, spring, going through your bracket, nylon, spindle, nylon, then the nut itself will go on the bottom here, like that, and I'll lock it all in place. Now that's going to give you your suspension, like I said, and it's not a whole lot. I can do it with my left hand, you can see. It's going to be just enough to get a little bit of spring in there. You guys have seen these wheels here. These are the ones that I picked up for the wagon here. They're the ones that also have that stupid spacer in the middle. I think I saw me struggle with in another video. There we go. Wheel on. A little bit of bling. Got ourselves a little chrome acorn nut there. We'll put it on there like that. And there you go, guys. We'll flip it up this way. There you go. That's going to be our suspension for the front end. Once it's all done up, we'll have enough to be able to, get it to go. So there you go. That's the front spindle bracket and wheel assembly. We got a couple more videos coming up. Gonna be on the turn buckles there on the spindle to get them. Pull the other spindle out here. It's gonna be the other little turnbuckles here in order to mount actual heim joint and rod for our steering. I'll show you a couple of those parts in that video here probably in the next chapter, and we'll get this wagon keep on rolling. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe and like the videos, leave some comments. I'll more than happily answer the comments and questions, and we'll move on to the next chapter of the Hot Rod Wagon. See you guys next time. Take care.